But this is an important point, though, that trouble at the NRA does not mean the gun rights movement is weakened. I mean, right now they seem to have as strong a hold on the Republican Party as they have ever had. They have cases in front of the Supreme Court, which may strengthen gun rights movement. So, give me your take on that. So, the NRA may be shaky, but the sort of Second Amendment gun rights movement, what, as strong as ever?
When you talk to lawmakers, right, you ask them, why do they fear the NRA?
Yeah.
They're not worried about, I mean, money obviously has an impact, but what the NRA's real strategic asset is its members, who lawmakers are worried about flooding their phone lines and flooding their inboxes and yelling at them at town halls. That's really what lawmakers are worried about. And right now we have a Democratic House, Democratic Senate, Democratic White House, and no serious conversation about gun legislation. And one of the reasons is even in the NRA's weakened state, its members still exist as a kind of implicit threat against gun legislation, which lawmakers remain concerned about, deeply concerned about.
You also, I mean, and this I think is the crucial thing. I mean, the money is not insignificant, but it is that mobilization of the members who have been conditioned over decades now to be on a hair trigger about any threats to gun rights. I mean, correct? I mean, they are still out there. One of the interesting things we didn't talk about it in great detail, the NRA TV, which was a complete financial failure. In a lot of ways, though, it was a little bit ahead of his time, wasn't it? In terms of using the culture war to gin up anxiety and outrage and activism. You think about some of the things that were on NRA TV, they're now standard fare on Newsmax or OAN or Fox News or any of these other YouTube channels out there. So that culture still exists even while the NRA is imploding. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that what they've set in motion almost has a kind of uh, has a trajectory now, which could go on without them. Right? That they've created this movement of millions of members. They've certainly changed gun legislation in this country at the state level and resisted sort of changes at the federal level very effectively. I think there's no doubt about the NRA's effectiveness over the last few decades in changing the just the very nature of the way we talk about guns. You mentioned the Supreme Court case about concealed carry.
Yeah.
30 years ago, when Wayne LaPierre was just a state lobbyist, only a handful of states allowed concealed carry, and now all 50 states allow it in some way or another. And the United States is really debating, what limitations are permitted, not whether concealed carry should be allowed or not allowed. That evolution in the discussion is largely attributable to the NRA.
And now they're pushing for quote unquote constitutional carry around the country, including open carry, legal open carry. I mean, it's like they're not satisfied with the victories they've had. They're pushing it even further. So if you see people walking down the street with an AR-15 in some states, that's completely legal to do.
Right. I mean, the NRA is certainly not is not done. The NRA, while it's in its most weakened state, and I've described it, it is like you say, a mortal threat to its existence. Right. The New York Attorney General could shut it down. And a court will have to decide that in proceedings that I'll be watching very, very closely over the next year.
Do you think
Um,
that will happen, by the way?
I'm not predicting that it will happen, but it's a serious possibility, which anyone should be taking uh, as a serious outcome, right? Because there's plenty of evidence that the New York Attorney General and reporters like myself have accumulated over the last few years that show, without a doubt, that there's been all this misspending inside the NRA. So the NRA, as a nonprofit, is facing the loss of that status. It's facing the loss of its own organization's ability to exist.